Okay, so first of what we're going to look at is denoising techniques. Now, denoising is incredibly important simply because it means you're going to get a clean key. So you're going to make really a really nice clean mat there. What you'll find is if you don't denoise it, remove this kind of camera grain, what you're going to get is kind of flickery edges. And you may have seen that already in some of your work, and that will be why. So we always want to denoise our image before we even start to do a key. We need to kind of treat it. So there's a few techniques in this. Most people, if I put a dot node here, hit tab and type denoise, so most people are going to go for this, and that's fine. I mean, again, there's a few different methods I'm going to show you which you can do with this, just take it a bit more advanced, but this will do the job, pretty much do the job fine. So what this does is it's going to give us, as soon as we've got the property panels open, it's going to give us this nice square down here, this sampling area, and at the moment, as you can see, we need to move it to a different area. So what we want to do is we want to put it in a nice flat area. Okay, so simply because what it's going to do is it's going to look at the color and say, okay, which is camera noise and what is kind of the details there. So we don't really want to drag on his hair or anything like that. We want to put it somewhere nice and flat. So on this green screen, I'm just going to go for here, make it nice and big. Now, if I view that now, and I'm going to hit 2 with this selected and 1 with this selected, so then I can flick between. As you can see, I'm doing that now. So what I'm looking for now is are any details removed that aren't camera grain? So if I'm going to flick between, and it looks like it's done an okay job there. Again, maybe we got some hair detail missing. Kind of feels softer on the hair detail. Now, we don't care about the red markers or anything like that. All we care about is the thing we're going to keep. Yeah, that's all we're looking for in regards to the details. So don't worry if, oh, okay, there's some kind of set in the background or whatever that you're going to get rid of. Just completely ignore that. All you care about is the guys. So that's the first kind of thing that generally people do. But we're going to go a little bit more advanced. So this was probably shot on a digital camera. So I'm going to flick this to digital, just see if that improves. Again, it's not an exact science. We can flick between film and digital, and just see which one makes a difference there. So I'm going to stick with digital, I think. Again, they're pretty similar, but I think digital is doing a slightly better job. And then now what we can do is we can actually drag down this denoise amount, just because if you feel like it's getting hit too hard with that, it's softening the image too much. Can you see we can just change it there, just so we're really just moving the camera grain and no detail at all. So I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to flick between again, check a few different areas, maybe a bit more. Just feels like there's still some camera grain here. Okay, perfect. So that's looking good to me. Once you've got that, what you'd want to do is then write it out. The denoise node is pretty heavy, so write it out and then read that back in and then disable it so that it's not having to do any of that work anymore, basically. So we've got that, but let's say we're going to take it a few steps further. So in my experience, if you put a log to lin node in, so if we hit tab and type log to lin, now what this allows us to do is it allows us to convert to go from linear space to logarithmic space, and it's going to kind of flatten the image slightly in regards to kind of values, but generally denoise will actually do a better job with this. So you could actually just copy your denoise we did before, and then I'm going to hit tab and type log to lin again. So what we've done is we've gone from linear to logarithmic, and that's going to flatten our image out, denoise that image, and then log to lin again, and that gives it back. And what I've found is in the past on previous films, it basically just maintains the detail a little better. Can you see, in regards to his glasses, it just feels a little nicer. So yeah, that's something really, really useful there. So now you've got your denoise, and again, you'd want to write that out at the bottom as well. What we can actually do as well is we can separate out the grain if we ever wanted to plus it over anything else, for instance. So what we can do is if we go hit to the merge node here, whack that in. I just hit M, by the way, to put that in there, and we want the B pipe going this way and the A pipe going down. Now generally you want that B pipe going all the way down, but in this case we need to do it this way just for the math. So what we're going to do is double click it and set it to divide. Now what that's going to do is it's basically just going to give us just the grain that we taken out of the image. So then what I can do is now with I've got my denoised image here. So if I hit M on the keyboard again for a merge, B pipe going down this time, A pipe going in. Hold down Control or Command on the Mac, I think, to make a nice dot node there in a right angle. And then we're going to set that to multiply. And what that's going to do is it's going to multiply, so for instance, let's take this one. 0.93539 by 0.05305, and then that's the result. And can you see now we get our grain back over? And if we compare the original to this one, we're getting the exact same grain everywhere. Now you may be wondering what this is useful for. Well, it's incredibly useful if you need to do some kind of grades to your plater tool. So for instance, if I put a grade here, so I've separated out my noise over here, and I've got my denoised image running down here. And let's say the client asked me to just tint it heavily, I don't know, heavily orange, because they're going for a weird kind of magic hour sunsetty look. Well, that's going to really affect our grain. If we plug it into our original, it's really going to affect that grain. Whereas now, I've taken out the grain, I've graded that image, and then what I've done is I've then put that grain that we've extracted to the side here back over the top. And it's just going to give us a more accurate image. Now with a multiply, you may not notice the difference with the grade set to multiply, but if you put a lift in, you'll really start noticing the difference. Simply because now you're not lifting those grain values. Can you see that? We've lost a lot of the grain here by just lifting it up. Whereas over here, we've maintained that grain. So that's just something to bear in mind. Again, this is quite an advanced way of thinking, but this is the way you should be thinking if you want to kind of get into the industry and work to a really high kind of filmic level. So that's the way to do that. So yeah, definitely have a look at that. It's incredibly important to think about that.